Happy Star Wars Day. Happy the 20th. Happy end of 44 years of geek madness. That's right. The rise of the Skywalkers. Gray Star screens officially yesterday around 6 p.m. And, well, it was a film. I don't want to give spoilers. It was a film. It was amazing. It was heartbreaking. There was moments where I laughed, moments where I was like, just yes, and moments where I was like, what the? But that's not what we're talking about. Speaking of rises and falls and rises of empires, it is I, your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the toxic gatekeeper, the man who has been banned, continuing our final, well, maybe not final, it'll probably coming up again, because it is the subject that never seems to die. Look into the rise and fall of 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Now, when we left off in the bizarre history, and let us just encompassate, for a game that was only around for like 4 or 5 years, hindsight being 2020 compared to some other stuff, just so many things. It was the perfect storm of just choices, mostly bad choices, but just choices and just things and just bad luck and just bad timing and just so much went wrong with what could have just been a harmless next step in the evolution of Dungeons & Dragons. Could have just been a blip on the gaming radar, but just so many things had to fall into place to just go so catastrophically wrong to cause the reaction that 4th edition did. So if you remember from our last video, we know that about the time that 4th edition is being thought of and being written and being playtested, we know that Hasbro is nibbling at Wizards of the Coast's door. We know that Hasbro has made some good business choices and some bad... Wizards of the Coast has made some good business choices and bad business choices that have led them to the point where they're thinking about, yeah, let's have Hasbro buy us out. Wizards of the Coast at this point in time had an in-house production company that was doing a lot of stuff on Dragon and doing a lot of the late 3rd 3.5 module stuff. They were eventually going to become the company we know as Paizo. So these guys had Dungeon, they had Dragon, they had a lot of the in-house publishing company. They were doing a lot of stuff for the OGL, approved for use with Dungeons & Dragons, a lot of like the early Necromancer game stuff, a lot of the stuff they were doing in Adventure Paths in Dungeon Magazine, like the Citadel, the Cauldron thing, and the Incursion thing, and you know, and they were just pretty much, they wore Dragon and Dungeon Magazine. So the OGL is out there, the nibbling is out there, 4th edition starts percolating in their brain. They start testing the waters. They start thinking, okay, let's start advertising it. Let's start approaching game stores. At the same time, the powers that be, possibly Hasbro, possibly just another bad choice, they decide that, you know what, we don't want any outsiders making stuff. We need to circle our wagons. We've thrown the OGL out there, and a lot of people are making more money than we thought. So let's just kind of coalesce and throw in the wagons and circle the wagons before we get 4th out there. So they sort of kick Paizo to the curb. Paizo had already made a name for themselves with Shackled City and Incursion and Rise of the Rune Lords. They were already putting out 3.5 stuff. They were getting very, very popular with their 3.5 stuff. And they're like, no, we want to control Dragon and Dungeon by ourselves. Thanks for all the work, production company. But no, we don't want any more outside resources at this point in time when we release 4th. So thank you. But because of the way the OGL was written, Paizo got to keep the rights to Rise of the Rune Lords and stuff like that. So that name was theirs, and they were out there, and they'd already made approved for use with Dungeons & Dragons product with the Paizo name attached to it. So, blam. Now, blam number 2. The OGL is out there, and they're like, hey, you can make a game using the OGL. You can make a game, the OGL. You can make a game, the OGL. Oh, we're going to release 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons coming up. So we want to pull back on the OGL because we want you to focus all your energy on fourth, and we want to focus all our energy on fourth, and we don't want to be a competitor with ourselves. So a couple announcements come out from Wizards of the Coast about the same time that they start advertising fourth. And a lot of the way these announcements are worded come off a lot worse than maybe what Wizards of the Coast intended. So one of the announcements was, no, we no more OGL. Basically, we're calling it back. You cannot make approved for use Dungeons and Dragons product anymore under the OGL. We're killing it off because we want to focus all the energy on fourth, and we don't want to be a competitor with ourselves. So we don't want 3.5 product out there that's going to compete with fourth. That makes sense. I guess. I don't want to be a competitor with myself. Makes somewhat sense. Unfortunately, the way the OGL was written and the way something like that is written, the way you make something public domain written, according to the law of publishing, once that is out there, you cannot take it back. And Wizards of the Coast were taken to court by some game companies over this ruling of how things are published. Once you throw out the open license, once you say, yes, you can use our product, once you make something like an OGL out there, you can't take it back. It becomes public domain, kind of like Cthulhu. So Wizards of the Coast couldn't take OGL back. It was out there to be used, and people could continue to use it whether Wizards of the Coast liked it or not. They still, by the writing of Wizards of the Coast, OGL had to use the 6 stats, and still couldn't use the copyright monsters, and still Wizards of the Coast got like 0.0001 cent every time an OGL product was out there. But anybody anywhere in the world could put something out from the size of a postage stamp to a 350-page book under the OGL, and it could be approved for use with Dungeons and Dragons, or it didn't have to be approved for use with Dungeons and Dragons, like Mutants and Masterminds, which was a superhero game. Sorry, still sick. And still in my ear. So, I mean, that's the worst thing, is having the sick in your ear where you, like, can't hear. So, here's the first blam. Okay, we failed with this OGL thing because now we've lost control of it. Now we are our own competitor. People are out there making product for 3.5, for 3, for older stuff. We have the retro clone movement starting, and they're taking money out of our pockets, and we can't do anything to stop it. Blam number 2, Paizo, who had just been kicked to the curb, decide to start their own company, publishing 3.5 related stuff. And then they decide, hey, let's make our own game under the OGL. Let's say, well, you know what? We see what you're doing with 3.5. We know what you have planned for 4th. We can do it better. So Pathfinder starts getting playtests, and it starts getting a lot of good response from the initial things. Rise of the Rune Lords won awards. Paizo's getting a lot of good names. They're making all the right friends. They're doing stuff with other companies like Necromancer and Dungeon Crawl, and companies that will grow up to become other companies. And Pathfinder, the role-playing game, what we sometimes refer to as affectionately as 3.5.5, is now starting to make the rounds. Blam number 2. Now here's the single most important thing that caused the destruction of 4th edition. It wasn't that there was a reasonable successor to the throne coming out at the exact same time in Pathfinder, which was a very good system to begin with until it got, yeah, that's a different story, but yeah. But it was how Wizards of the Coast phrase things to game stores. This is the initial boulder that caused the landslide of anger and frustration and just fanaticism and just the whole fuck you 4th mentality, was wordings of things that Wizards of the Coast meant to game stores. Now, I do not know how much of this is true. I just know what I was told. I know what I was witnessed. I know what I read, but who knows? I mean, there's no definitive. So a lot of this is conjecture based upon things that I was told, things that I saw, things that I read, the knowledge that was given to me during the 4th edition and the 4th edition playtesting that I took a part of. And the response that I saw to it makes me believe that at least it is partially true. Basically, Wizards of the Coast told game stores to go fuck themselves. More, to put it in the words of Seth Bradley, game stores were told you could not support other Dungeons & Dragons product. Wizards of the Coast was saying things like, we are not going to support 3.5, 3, 2, 1 anymore. As far as we're concerned, basically, anything before 4th never happened. You can't carry it. You can't support it. We're not going to support it. We're not going to acknowledge it. Forgotten Realms, all that other stuff. Screw you. It's 4th and beyond. Anything before 4th, fuck you. We're not going to support your stores. We're not going to answer orders. We're not going to fulfill our obligations to get prizes out there. You have to carry 4th. You have to order this much amount of 4th. And you have to sell this much amount of 4th. This is what game store owners heard. And they were angry. How dare you, Wizards of the Coast, tell me how to run my store when you're doing so little to support my store? Meanwhile, here are all these other companies who are, doing stuff under 3.5 and who are doing great responses to stores. They're coming into stores, they're doing demos, they're doing prizes, they're doing t-shirts. Paizo's out there chugging away with Pathfinder and advertising it as, subtly the next D&D. Wizards of the Coast is telling game store owners how to sell, what to sell, how to order, what to order. Game store owners, in return, are talking to their customer base and basically, in no uncertain terms, telling them, do not buy 4th. I have to carry it, but if you don't buy it, you're telling them how you feel about how they're treating me. Look at this other game, Pathfinder. It's the same thing as Dungeons & Dragons, but slightly better. So people got upset. Were already getting upset. How dare you talk to me like that? How dare you tell me what I can and cannot play? How dare you change 4th and not acknowledge my beloved 3rd, my beloved 2nd, my beloved 1st, and my beloved 10 years of gaming, my beloved history, my beloved attachment to this mythology. How dare you? You're telling me all this shit, so I'm angry at you. I'm angry at 4th. I hate 4th for ruining the game and ruining D&D. I'm going to go play other games, or I'm just not going to play. Pathfinder started selling like hotcakes because of this, and because game store owners were taking advantage of this to sell Pathfinder, and Paizo was taking advantage of this in the way they advertised Pathfinder. They would get, that word out that, Wizards of the Coast doesn't care about you, but we do, so blah, blah, blah. So now this hate is percolating. Some people haven't even seen 4th yet, but they've just got this in their mind. And once that idea starts rolling, it's hard to stop it. And once somebody decides, I hate something, it's hard to make that hate go away. You will stick to that hate even if there's no reason to, just because you feel vindicated in hating 4th. There are people still today on the 20th of December in 2019 who will vehemently and violently hate on 4th. For no reason. Because 4th, what the fuck did 4th ever do to you to make you that angry? Nothing. It did nothing. No one held a gun to your head and said you cannot play 3rd. No one held a gun to you and said you have to buy 4th. No one held a gun to your head and said you have to buy Paizo. They made ultimatums, or what were perceived by ultimatums, to game store owners. Game store owners reacted to these perceived ultimatums and said and did things to cause this environment of hate and negativity towards the game. But there were people who played 4th. I played 4th for a while, and it was okay. It wasn't, it was fine. It was fun. There's stuff we liked, there's stuff we didn't like. It worked really well. It was very easy. So this is the second stage in the rise and fall and rise of 4th edition. Yes, now you understand the powers of the 4th side of the 4th edition of the Force. Tune in for our next episode, when we will continue our exploration of what went wrong with 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Till next time, have a happy holidays, have a great Star Wars weekend, stay healthy, and I will talk to you later, losers.